Hey, nice to see you. Hmm? Oh, the video. All right. Sorry. Um, Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Today I will show you a bunch of short books that can get you out of a reading slump that you can read in one day. Most of these, at least, you could read in one day. And it seems like very short books and very long books seem to be quite popular now. So I'll do my share of this style of video. And I tried to select books that are not like super extremely well known and also books that I haven't really talked about that much on that channel. Otherwise this would just be Anna Kavan again. Um, let's get right into it. The first one I chose is The Pearl by John Steinbeck. John Steinbeck, obviously super well known author with The Grapes of Wrath and East of Eden. This I don't remember where I picked it up, but it's 82 pages, and it's a quite big font. You can easily read it in one sitting probably. And yeah, it's a very sad and devastating and tragic story in usual Steinbeck fashion about a guy and his young family, and he's a pearl diver, and he finds the biggest pearl that has ever been found that's supposed to give him wealth, but instead it just ruins his life. And it's a very interesting book, and it's a good meditation on wealth and ownership and that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's a very tragic story, but if you are in the mood for some good Steinbeck tragicness, then this is for you. I don't know how to put this. Next up, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Chronik eines angekündigten Todes, or in English, Chronicle of a Death Foretold. This is kind of Kafkaesque in a way, and I'm pretty sure Marquez was influenced by Kafka. This is a story about a guy that is gonna be murdered today, on this day that the book is set on. There are two brothers that are in a quarrel with him, and they wanna murder him. And they tell that to everybody. And the whole village knows about it, except for the guy. I think his name is Santiago. Santiago Nassar. And he just goes about his life, and as the hour where he is gonna get killed draws closer, people start pitying him and are kind of like, oh no, it's and the point is everybody could easily save him, and they just don't act. They remain passive. All the people, his friends, his family, none of them do anything. And I don't think that's a very big spoiler, but he does die in the end. Even though I just spoiled the ending, this is definitely still super worth reading, and it's very interesting to know the whole time how the book is gonna end, and just to see in which way it reaches that point. Next up, one of my all-time favorite books. Haven't read this year. I think I read this at least 3 or 4 times. This can easily be done in a day. It also has a second story in it called Moonlight Shadow. Did I even say the name? It's Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. And it's about this young girl in Banana Yoshimoto fashion. She always writes about very young people. She's like 19 or something like that. Well, it's about this very young girl, and she lives with her, is it her grandma? And her grandma dies, and she doesn't have any family left because her parents also. There's a lot of death in this book, but it's still kind of hopeful. It has that Japanese quality that I like so much, where it's really sad and really tragic, but it also kind of remains not really positive, but kind of light and kind of yeah, just like kind of relaxed and kind of there's still hope. It's kind of hopeful. And this is very present in all of Yoshimoto's work, and also in some of Murakami's, which is coming up. Spoiler alert. Well, basically, this girl, she has no family members left, and she doesn't know what to do, and she doesn't know what to do with her apartment. And then this guy I think he's from her school, he just offers her to live with him and his mom. And they're not dating, they're not even really friends. They barely even know each other. And she's like, well, that's a little bit weird, but she takes the offer. And the guy's mother is transsexual, because his dad also died, and no, I'm getting confused. His mom also died, and then his dad just kind of wants to take that role of his mother because he thinks that the boy needs a mother more than he needs a father. And it's this tale about, well, it says, Pigeon is two tales about mother's transsexuality, bereavement, kitchens, love and tragedy. And notably, this was also written in 1987, so this is definitely a time where, like LGBTQ topics are very, very much present in everyday life now, and it definitely wasn't that way back then in Japan, at least not being trans. Maybe gay and lesbian was less of a taboo, but yeah, this has that, that what I just said. This, if you want to read a Japanese novel that has that Japanese lit fic mood to it, this is a big recommendation. Banana Yoshimoto isn't really super well known here in the West, but she's one of my favorite Japanese authors, and probably one of my favorite authors in general. You know what? I'm gonna leave this one for last. We got The Pigeon by Patrick Süskind, Die Taube. This was one of my top favorite books of last year. This is the same guy that wrote The Perfume. And this novella is quite different, but it definitely has the same mood and feeling. This is set in modern times. This is set, there's this guy who, he seems to be very neurodivergent. It's never called that, it's never really mentioned in that way. This also was written in the 80s, I think. And he just completely organized his whole life. He lives in a tiny rented room. It's not even an apartment, it's like a 9 square meter tiny room. And he's just, well, he's not super happy, but he's got his life together, and he's content with what he got. And in true autistic fashion, I guess, one day his routine gets disrupted by a pigeon, of all things. And he just fucking spirals. It disrupts his whole life. He completely loses his mind just because of this pigeon. And it's a tale of madness and derailment. It's a very fun read, and this is kind of the opposite mood wise of Kitchen, because it's kind of this is a tragic story told in a light way, and this is a light story told in a very heavy and tragic way. So it's funny and it's sad, and it's just 100 pages, and it definitely evoked a lot of emotion in me. Next up, we got Robert Seethaler, Ein ganzes Leben. I'm pretty sure that this gets translated to at least English, maybe some other languages too, not quite sure, but I think this is definitely available in English. This is a lovely story about a man who lives in the Alps, and it just kind of narrates his whole life. And this is fictional, this is not a biography, this is a fiction. Well, it's probably based on some true events, But yeah, this is about this guy who faces adversity. He fights in wars. He grieves. He loses people. And still he can, it's just a tale of life. This is something. These are experiences that almost everybody goes through. I mean, not everybody fights in a war, but definitely these experiences of loss and grief are something that everybody at one point in their life will encounter. It always seems like if I talk about these books, they all seem like so devastating and so sad and so negative, and I think that's just kind of what I like to read. But these are definitely books that can also make you feel good, not just books that are kind of sad. This still has the price tag on it, but that's okay. Stefan Zweig, Schachnovelle. The English title is just Chess, which I think is a bit unfortunate, because I think if it was called Chess Novella, that would sound way cooler. I think this quite recently, got very popular again, and it's probably Zweig's most famous work at this point. And yeah, he's also an author that I really like. He was Austrian. He was a contemporary of Hermann Hesse, Thomas Mann, and the likes. So early 1900s. I think he was a bit younger than them, and he never really had a hit novel. He kind of experimented with a lot of different stuff. He wrote some historical novellas. He wrote some short stories, and this also is a novella, obviously. Look at the size of that font. You can easily read this in one sitting. It's about some dudes on a boat, and the boat has a world famous chess player on it, and everybody and the people all like to play chess and to challenge him, and they're like, oh no, he's too good. He wouldn't wanna play against those plebs, basically. And then one guy shows up, and no one knows who he is, and he just wants to play chess against that guy, and he agrees, and then he wins. And then it kind of goes, and the resolution why he's so good at chess. I'm not gonna spoil that, but it kind of gives me goosebumps. It's an amazing novel. It might be Zweig's best work. Who knows? I haven't read everything by him, but this is definitely an astoundingly well written book. Another Japanese guy. We got Haruki Murakami himself. After Dark. That's I'm still reading through Murakami's whole catalog. I think I'm about like 2/3 through, maybe. And this is one that I really liked, After Dark. It does have like almost 200 pages, so if you really wanted to, you could probably read it in a day, but not really a one-day experience. However, it is set during one single night, and it just kind of follows different people around what they do, and it kind of goes into Tokyo's nightlife, which is fun and exciting, but also dark and disturbing. And it's a lovely book. I think it's a good one to get into Murakami, and I liked it a lot. Next up, this book. This is a very awkward format. Let me tell you about this book. I briefly mentioned it in like my bookshelf tour or something, I think. This book, must be about 3 years ago, one channel called Cloud Cuckoo Country posted a video on ergodic literature, and this was just when I was really getting into like a hardcore reading, I would say. And these were just like really weird, really strange books, and this was one of them. And I I acquired a whole bunch from that list because they sounded so interesting to me. Basically just books that don't really read like normal books and are just in a way, for example, like As by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst, where you have like two stories going on at the same time, stuff like that. And this was one of them. And this is probably one of the weirdest books I've ever read. This is just like a batshit crazy apocalypse story. It's not really one cohesive story. It's more like little vignettes or little I don't know, not really aphorisms. It's just like, it's hard to describe. I'll just read you a little bit. Dry flakes of charcoal came big as men's heads, slathered from some great fire overhead. The ash rained black into the evening, clung against the mud as some new second skin. Each inch sat speckled, crusted over. Each inhale brought a mouthful. The streets intoned with choral wheeze and intense hiccup. We made face masks out of old newspapers. The current editions no longer came. And so on. And it's just about the like weird stuff raining from the sky. I mean, in that what I just read, it rains dust, but it also rains teeth at some point. And it rains TV static, and then in the end there's like this house. Like there's like the sea is all dried up, and two people wander across the dry seabed, and there's a house in the middle of the seafloor, and there's a chimney that extends so high up that you can't even see the top of it. It's so weird. It's so I think the what I just read doesn't really do it justice. It's not very easy to describe this book. Let me read you this part where it rains blood from the sky. Though we refused to call it that, we swore not to acknowledge the innards of our fathers as they sprayed down in spectacle upon us. It woke us quickly from our visions. There was something familiar we could smell in the long glossy streams, non-stop pouring from overhead some bottomless container. For some sketches the mesh of platelets formed sets of stairs. That week there was no sun, no moon, no dreaming, not even a word from the mouth of one neighbor or another as we waited for some end. Hid and fumbling beneath only the earth's face, white and loamy, coagulating. This is really disturbing. This is like a David Lynch horror movie. If you like Eraserhead by David Lynch, you probably like this book too. It's has similar vibes. And it used to be super hard to acquire this book because it was only printed by Featherproof Books, which is a quite small publisher in the US, and it was like a print on demand kind of thing, but they wouldn't ship to the EU or to Europe, and so it was very, very hard for me to get it. And it used to, this is one of the books that I really like book hunted, you know. I really like kept checking different platforms like every week, and it used to resale for like $300 or even more. I think I saw it for like almost 1,000 at some point, because it was just a book that you couldn't get, and that was super popular because of that guy's video. And I finally got it for 60. So believe it or not, I paid €60 for this book. And then a while later I think it was in print in Europe or something, because now you can get it for cheap. But yeah, this felt twice as rewarding because it took me so long to get it. And yeah, on that note, I will also briefly show you what I'm reading currently. So I'm reading The Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb, a high fantasy novel, which it's not something I usually read. I'll go about it more in depth when I finish it, but basically the concept of this book, it has like conscious ships. Well, it was a bit outside my comfort zone. It took me about 150 pages to really get into it, but now I'm hooked, and the story is picking up pace. I might not finish it this month because it's like 900 pages, but yeah, I got into it, finally. Then, I also picked up Panama Fever by Matthew Parker again. I have been reading this book since September of last year. And I took a long break in the middle, but now I have just under 100 pages left. And I'm also hooked on this one now. It's a non-fiction about building the Panama Canal. Then I got my reread for this month, which is The Golem by Gustav Meyrink. I'm mainly prioritizing these other two, but this is, I think I'll put my mind to it once I finish one of these other ones. Then I was in a bit of a slump, so this seems a bit counterintuitive, but I read Faust by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. It's Goethe, by the way, it's not Goethe or anything like that. And what can I say? This might be one of the best things I've ever read in my life, and that has ever been written. I'll talk about it more when the time comes. Then I have this dirty ass copy of The Wall by Marlene Haushofer, which I haven't started reading yet, but I will probably today or tomorrow. That's my little update. I'll do a little thumbnail with all these books like this. And thank you for watching, and see you next time.